Recently here on What Culture Wrestling, we did a similar list like this, but with the year known as 2009, and everybody seemed to like it, which was nice. Thank you for that. As such, we thought we'd do more from around this period, and that starts now as we turn the clock back 12 months to look at 2008. The real joy of it was that it wasn't 2007, which we know was an awful year all round. Once that had been left in the past, pay-per-view quality went up, including that wonderful Ric Flair retirement match, while Chris Jericho and Shawn Michaels also raised the bar, and it was a time where CM Punk started to make his mark in the WWE. I don't think anyone knew what the future held, but it was still fun to see it play out. There's no such thing as a clean slate though, and as such, there's always events we can dip our toes into. My name is Simon from What Culture. Remember to hit that subscribe button, and this is 10 things you didn't know about WWE in 2008. Number 10, John Morrison versus Candice Michelle. John Morrison's time in WWE was a little troubled because he was dating Melina, seemingly. That sounds weird, but anything she did that was considered a negative was then passed on to him because of association. Soon after, he was then also dubbed to have a bad attitude, I think because he tried to stand up for both himself and his partner. For example, at WrestleMania 27, there was some controversy around Morrison giving Trish Stratus the cold shoulder following their mixed tag, as he believed that spot should have been given to Melina. Candice Michelle got involved with this as well, apparently, as the two fell out in 2007, with Melina believing Candice was only being pushed because of how she looked. Johnny Boy continued this trend during a live blog on WWE.com during the No Mercy event in 2008, where he said, and this is a quote, "Candice Michelle looks like she's had way too much plastic surgery, and actually when Jenny McCarthy came to WWE to support autism, she thought Candice was special because of how she moves. I think Candice is vertically challenged. I mean seriously, she can't jump." There was also another word in there, but I refuse to say it, and to repeat, these are not my words and they never would be, but that's what he said or wrote in this regard. It's a little too personal if you ask me, and as far as anyone knows, nothing came from it, other than the more bad blood, I imagine. Jeez. Number 9, John Laurinaitis pushed hard for a Sid return. I love Sid Justice, love him. Anyone that talks through their teeth like a crazed loon is alright by me, and despite his limitations, he was perfect for pro wrestling. He fit the mold. In 2008, though, he hadn't done all that much since breaking his leg at WWE Sin pay-per-view in 2001, but that didn't deter WWE's Vice President of Talent Relations, who thought he may be worth another look. John Laurinaitis believed in this so much he went and scouted him during an indie appearance, and this must have gone well in some sense because Sid started telling friends he was on his way back to the company. The problem, however, was that he wasn't. John had eyes and could see how big Sid still was, so when he asked if he could pass the wellness test and got told probably not, the plan was dropped. Make no mistake about it though, this was part of the plan at one point, and John did push hard to make it happen. Instead, we had to wait a few more years for the master and the ruler of the world to walk down the aisle on an episode of Raw in 2012. When he was there, he kicked the schlib out of Heath Slater. Number 8, Michael Hayes and racism. Michael Hayes is quite the character and according to many, an acquired taste. He wears loud clothes, speaks as if nobody can hear him, and has an old school view towards wrestling. That's probably a plus in some senses because he can bring a historic perspective to modern ideas, but in the same vein he also enjoys a drink. On that note, when he gets drunk he tends to do things he surely regrets after the fact. One instance of such behaviour was when he started doing some unplanned karaoke at Triple H and Stephanie McMahon's wedding. I'm sure that wasn't high on anybody's list, but it's harmless all things considered. Other circumstances were not, such as what happened in 2008. During a party that occurred during the WrestleMania 24 weekend, Hayes and Mark Henry were together when the former told the latter, "I'm more of an N-word than you are." He then tried to headbutt him, albeit in a playful manner. Needless to say, this did not go down well and Henry was furious. It wasn't the only example of this, as former black and Asian writers along with Bobby Lashley and Booker T have also insinuated how Hayes had used racist language and told racially insensitive jokes. All of this was also apparently a factor in Lashley leaving the company. There was more to this as well, and Hayes was suspended for 60 days because of this behaviour. When he came back, the first thing he did was apologise to Henry and all the African American wrestlers. Hayes blamed the incident on his well-known drinking problems and told people he was taking Antabuse, which is a drug that makes you vomit when you consume alcohol. Learning from your mistakes is what life is all about, So let's hope that these days Hayes is a new man and understands where the hell he went wrong. Number 7, writers pitched for Flair vs Michaels at WrestleMania to go on last. Makes sense, right? At the time, it seemed as if Ric Flair was about to wrestle his last match, which was true in terms of WWE, and it was a huge deal. Throw in that the build had been great, and plenty of people backstage thought it would be crazy to let anything else go on before it. That's why you may think it's a little weird that not only did Undertaker vs Edge close the show, but Triple H vs Cena vs Orton and Big Show vs Floyd Mayweather also went on after the Nature Boy had said goodbye. The reason for this? Well, it was Flair's choice. He didn't want to steal the spotlight from anybody else, and while the idea of the final shot being his robe left in the ring sounded cool, Rick was adamant that nothing should be considered more important than the World Championship. Now that is some old school thinking for you. It's a pretty selfless thing to do, especially as nobody would have complained. Plus, we had that emotional moment where Michaels apologized to Flair before pulling the trigger on the match-sealing super kick. It didn't take anything away from it, however, and really knowing this, it just ties into the performer that Ric Flair was. He's a damn hero. Number 6, Charlie Haas gets ribbed. Charlie Haas has had an odd WWE career. While it started well as his team with Shelton Benjamin smashed it, that hit a wall when he was released in July 2005. I doubt he minded at the time, given that he had been put with Rico and Hardcore Holly in random pairings that never got any kind of steam. He was rehired a year later and briefly reunited with Benjamin, but that soon stopped again, which left Charlie to buddy up with Viscera. When that hit its natural end, WWE had one final idea for Haas, and that was for him to be an impersonator. Okay. The writing was always on the wall for him, as it was said that Vince McMahon wasn't a fan, and he would even get teased for his crowd reactions or lack thereof. People backstage would call these a Haas pop. It does not sound like it was fun to be Charlie during this run. It got worse in 2008 when, for a joke, he was written into one of McMahon's million spots where he was also told he had to kiss Maria and Mae Young. What even is WWE? That was his fate 11 years ago, and ever since, we haven't heard much from him. Number 5, Triple H and video games. I was working in the video game industry when this rumour broke, and while it never filtered down to me, there were a lot of reports which gave it a lot of weight, including magazine Fighting Spirit, who straight up published a memo they had received from publisher THQ. As the title suggests, it said that with SmackDown vs Raw 2009, Triple H was not allowed to be shown in a defenseless or vulnerable position, as well as that now WWE had entered a PG era, wrestlers shown bleeding or holding weapons were also banned. The latter you can understand, but the former just whipped the wrestling fanbase into a frenzy as they felt it proved everything they'd seen on TV over the years. It caused a proper rift between the publication and WWE, but you can't say the leak didn't achieve its goal. We're still talking about it now. Triple H wouldn't lose to Booker T at WrestleMania 19, and he wouldn't lose to him in a screenshot either. You've probably already guessed that as soon as the game was released, the internet was awash with images of the game getting his ass kicked. Number 4, dubious statements about Ashley Mazzaro. I include this one if nothing else to keep the name of Ashley Mazzaro alive so we don't forget the struggles she appeared to go through towards the end of her life. If you are feeling helpless or that something isn't right, please do reach out and speak to someone. Assistance is only ever a phone call away. But back in 2008, the internet reared its head again when it was claimed that Mazzaro was involved with an escort ring where high-powered business people could buy the services of porn stars and models. Ashley was quick to deny the claims and did so on her MySpace by simply writing they were false, and nothing ever came of this. She would leave WWE in the summer to focus on her sick daughter, so we should really use this as a reminder to be careful what is and isn't reported. You never know what else somebody is dealing with. Number 3, MVP gets in trouble. When Eddie Guerrero passed away in 2005, it served as a wake-up call for WWE. A more stringent drug testing policy was brought in, and that became even more serious after the Chris Benoit tragedy 2 years later. It meant in 2008 the company was on high alert, and rightfully so. It already helped MVP by highlighting that he suffered from a rare heart condition known as Wolff Parkinson White, so the most valuable player knew how it worked. In this year though, those who were hired to carry out these drug tests clearly caught the former US champ on a bad day. During an August test, MVP asked his tester whether or not he had been to college. When he replied he had, the wrestler quipped, "So you went to school for 4 years to watch people's dicks." Classy. The man in question complained, and it led to a company meeting where talent were told not to insult those who were doing the tests. It got MVP in some trouble, and he saw his push hit a snag. The lesson is always be nice. It's just a lot easier. Number 2, there was talk about bringing Kurt Angle back. When Kurt Angle left WWE in 2006, many people were surprised. It seemed like he was on top of his game, so why on earth would both sides part ways? As it turned out, Angle was suffering both physically and personally and needed some time off. A few officials behind the scenes described him as a ticking time bomb. That's not good. Rather than take it easy, Angle jumped ship to TNA, where he did absolutely smash it. He did such a good job that when 2008 rolled around, WWE seriously considered picking up the phone and asking him to return. Michael Hayes and Shane McMahon had pitched ideas about how he could re-enter the fold. It was even greenlit that if it did happen, Angle could have a reduced schedule akin to Shawn Michaels. The real issue was Angle's contract ran till September 2009, so if anything was going to happen, a deal would have had to have been struck between the companies, but ultimately, nothing ever came of this. It fluttered away, and that was that. Number 1, Charlotte got arrested. We saw it happen on TV prior to WrestleMania 35, but 11 years before that, the real-life Ashley Flair was actually being arrested for real. Eep. It sounds like it got quite out of control as she was tasered in September 2008 after resisting police officers, and all of this was following some incident between her boyfriend Ricky Johnson, and father Rick. All three were apparently involved in a fight which left the Nature Boy bloody, but he refused to press charges, and Charlotte was charged with assault. For her transgression, she was sentenced to 45 days in jail that was later suspended to supervised probation and a $200 fine. During this probation, she was required to seek drug and alcohol treatment and was subject to random drug tests. As she entered her guilty plea, she also said she was sorry. Obviously, we're past this now and all is wonderful, and again, it's a good example of learning from your errors and growing out the other side. Know of anything else we didn't know about WWE in 2008? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from What Culture, and I will talk to you again soon.